I read a piece in the newspaper saying that we're really in need of a State of the Nation novel, and my name was cited as one of the people who might be able to do it. And I couldn't help but notice that two of the others were dead. So I thought this was a sign. And the more I thought about it, the more I thought, yeah, we do need a decent State of the Nation novel. And I'd heard that in the dealing rooms when deals went down, the people shouted gleefully, "Other people's money," or OPM. And although that's not the most original title, it seemed to me to catch the essence of what I was trying to do.
What struck me is the fact that you've created characters that are not faceless bankers. These are real people. Let's just talk a little bit about what happens in Other People's Money.
Well, yeah, I've decided really that plausibly you couldn't paint all bankers as sort of unreservedly evil. That I preferred to look at a family who'd got caught up in something they didn't fully understand and their bank was going down. Instead of getting a Melmoth or somebody from Dickensian literature who was appallingly evil, I thought I'd see somebody who was sort of weak and confused.
This is Julian, isn't it?
Julian is the son of the dying chairman of the bank, and he is more or less been forced into the job and really wasn't up to it. And like a lot of bankers, he didn't really understand what these new financial instruments were, and that's what led them into trouble.
And then we've got the comic tale. It has been described as a thriller, though I would dispute that. To me, it's much more of a comedy of the two worlds, of the banking classes, and then what's going on down in Cornwall. Let's just talk a bit about that.
Yeah, in fact, it was described as a thriller, but in early publicity, but that's unfortunately the internet age. It's I thought that was a mistake, described as a thriller, but it's not a thriller. And what really I've contrasted is the world of finance and commerce with the world of art, and the art is represented by probably my now favourite character in all the books I've written, everybody laughs when you mention his name, has read the book. But
this is Arthur.
He's a sort of heroic character, ridiculous on the one hand, but also heroic, and he believes in the transcendence of art. But he desperately believes that sooner or later he's going to persuade Daniel Day-Lewis to appear in a major film or play that he's planning while producing Thomas the Tank Engine.
It has also been described as an idiot's guide to the financial world, but beautifully crafted in literature. Tell me about the research that you did to write this.
Well, I wouldn't pretend to really know the ins and outs of finance, but as one of the reviewers said, Cartwright's obviously done his homework, but I wouldn't trust my pension with him. I wouldn't trust my own pension with me. But I did look at some of the things like CDCs and so on, and hedge funds, and I sort of know how they work or didn't work. And really the conclusion I came to is a lot of the bankers didn't know what they were doing. Retail bankers really hadn't any idea what the investment arm was doing. The investment arm were the people who had decided to dice up mortgages fine and sell them on. The idea was that if you chopped up mortgages into little packages and lumped them all together, you'd take the risk out. It was absolutely crazy. It's what Keynes called casino banking. And my impression after talking to a lot of bankers is that actually really what happened was they believed that as long as the money was rolling in, there was no need to look closely at the regulation or what underpinned it. And as one banker said to me, well, really, the worst that could happen to you was that if you made a horrible mistake or lost money, you'd get a job somewhere else. It wasn't their money they were losing, if they did lose money. But they had a run of making money, and they didn't want to stop the train. In a way, understandably, but the whole ethos was a sort of testosterone-fueled, we can make money out of nothing. And in a way, I began not to sympathise, but to realise they weren't quite as mad and bad and evil, although the consequences of what they did was appalling. And the big problem with bankers is they're not even bankers, people in the financial side of life, is that they're not really concerned about the social effects of what they do. That isn't their job. Their job is they believe they're doing the real business of society and life, and the rest of us in arts or whatever are sort of wimps and almost irrelevant. They can patronise us, but we don't really understand what's really going on.
Yes, as I was reading your book, I suddenly thought at one moment of David Hare's play, The Power of Yes, and there was a scene where one of the bankers was justifying being masters of the universe. Did that ever spring to mind as you were talking to these individuals? Yes,
they do. My overall impression was that they really did think they were very, very important, and they didn't mean that just because they were dealing with finance. They actually sort of thought they were connected to something that most of us didn't understand. And arrogance isn't the word, but it's a kind of entitlement that obviously was bred in them for many years, because what they were doing essentially was dealing with enormous sums of money and taking a slice. I don't mean illegally, but taking a slice. And what happened was they were so sort of confident in their own judgment, their own ability to make money out of nothing, that I think they thought if it was legal, it was fine. The ethics of it or the social consequences didn't apply to them because that wasn't their job. They actually thought their job was really kind of to create wealth in a way that the rest of us could only dream about.
Did anything surprise you as you were researching this?
Yes, I talked to somebody who dealt in trusts, and I asked him whether, because I had the idea that the family would try and pad their assets in the bank when things went wrong. And I asked him if they would use their own money or use their customers' money. And he said, they'd use their customers' money because it could be hidden for a very long time, their clients, as they call them, investment banking. It could have been hidden for a very long time before the regulators, the rating agencies, the charity commissioners caught up with them. So as long as you could rectify it, say, within 2 years, it would be fine. And that apparently he seemed to think, this is an example of one, but he seemed to think that was pretty well understood in the city.
It is very different from anything else I've read of Justin Cartwright's. Did you enjoy writing this sort of book?
I did enjoy writing it. I mean, I just had in mind these kind of solid Victorian novels with plenty of characters. And so I didn't start. I'd actually read a few State of the Nation books as I was thinking about this. And I thought, there's a problem if the finance dominates the story. Finance is really very, very difficult to understand. And by trying to make it authentic, some of the books I'd read, I felt they'd got completely lost in the woods,
But you do balance it with the lovely light-hearted comedy.
Yeah, I mean, my central premise was that this bank was trying to pad the assets for reasons of trying to save the bank and get rid of it. And that's perfectly plausible up to a point. But basically my idea was, how did this financial collapse affect the nation from the top to the bottom? And the bottom is down in Cornwall, almost literally. You always think of Cornwall as somehow downhill. And, the idea of a heroic actor-manager trying to stage an improbable production with Daniel Day-Lewis, as contrasted with these people up in London with their grand houses and the houses in Antibes and so on, trying to hide the facts. The balance was, I enjoyed it a lot, and I loosened my stays slightly. I mean, I had just an awful lot of fun with this book.
And film rights were zapped up pretty quickly. I understand that there's a television production in the pipeline.
There is, yeah. It looks like it'd be a sort of grand, sweeping 4-part television production. But, I mean, nothing's certain in the film world, but I think it's, judging by the reaction, it probably will happen within a shortish space of time.
We'll look forward to seeing that. Other People's Money, Justin Cartwright. Thank you very much.